We are here today to honor and celebrate 23 cadets who will walk across this stage in a few moments and become Huntsville police officers. For the past 18 weeks, these cadets have worked tremendously hard for the opportunity to wear the badge and serve this community. There have been many early mornings, late nights, sore muscles, and many other sacrifices to get where you are today. There have also been many sacrifices by your families who have supported your aspirations to become Huntsville police officers. I want to express my thanks to those loved ones who have supported you and allowed you to become part of our police family. The career you have chosen is one of the most demanding and challenging that anyone could ever undertake. Your training has taught you self-discipline, self-control, respect for authority, and attention to detail that is necessary for your safety in this job. We have also tried to instill in you a core set of values that our department believes is a necessity in making your law enforcement career a success. I am personally very, very proud of each of you. Your graduation here today is due in part to a very dedicated and professional training staff. Combined, they have more than 100 years of law enforcement experience. They have put in many, many hours to ensure your training success. I would like to recognize them at this time. Deputy Director of Training, Lieutenant Lee Tribble. Training Supervisor, Sergeant Scott Widener. Training Advisor, Officer Joe DeBoer. Officer Chad George. Officer Jason Moore. And Officer Marcus Hendricks, who is unable to be here this morning. Thank you all for a job well done. It is now my privilege to introduce Huntsville Police Chief Mark McMurray.
Good morning. It's my honor to welcome each and every one of you to the graduation of the 56th session of the Huntsville Police Department. And I just want to give my personal thanks to Deputy Chief Harris, to Captain McCarver, and all these commanders up here. But these TAs and this staff of the Police Academy have worked for over 1 year to get the 23 bodies you see sitting on this line. They did 20 hard works, but this staff did 1 year to get Huntsville's finest brought to where they are today. And I can't tell you how pleasured I am and how honored I am to work with this crew of professionals on getting the finest we can to serve the citizens of Huntsville. So thank you, Deputy Chief Harris, Captain McCarver, and all of you who were just recognized. I want to talk to the families real quick first, because I got to meet you last week. We had a family night. We brought all the families, the parents, grandparents together, and just thank you for showing up. Thank you. I got to meet some kids and grandkids, and I got to meet the other side of these officers. So I want to say just thank you. Thank you for allowing us to enter your family and adopt these newest members into our family of the Huntsville Police Department. I'm going to ask something of you, though. I ask that you be loving and supportive of these fine officers. They're going to be a little different from this point on. If you haven't noticed already, you're going to notice the change in these individuals. They may not always show their emotions. You may never understand this part of their life. So make the best of the time you have together with these fine officers. Take time to educate yourself about this profession. Get in the police car and ride with them on patrol once in a while. We have a ride-along program that a lot of police departments don't have. We reach out to the families of these officers to become involved. But mostly, help these officers keep a sense of balance to their lives. They will always be better on the job if their lives are balanced off of their job. So I challenge you. You have our support. I thank you for joining us together on this. Now, graduates of the 56th session, all of us on this stage in law enforcement here We remember our graduation ceremony. We sat in those same seats listening to our chief try to give you some kind of useful advice about what you're about to face. So just as I was sitting there on the 28th session back in 1986, I'm going to share with you what I remember my chief telling me. And that is that all of you who wear this badge have the responsibility not just to carry the title of officer. You have to be worthy of it. You have to be worthy of that title. You've earned the honor of graduation, and you've earned our respect for being here and for becoming a police officer. But you know, now you have to earn this every day you strap on that gun and you pin on that badge. You're going to earn it again. The citizens of Huntsville demand no less. You have extreme responsibilities and privileges. You know, Dwight Eisenhower reminded us that a person who values his privileges above his principles will soon lose them both. And that's very true. Be proud of an officer. Be proud you're an officer. But never forget the principles for which you stand. Don't just be great officers. Try to be great people. In the coming years, you're going to have a lot of challenges and difficulties. You're going to see things that citizens don't see. And these things, these challenges, this is what's going to strengthen you. This is what's going to make you better officers. This is what's going to make you better leaders. And this is what's going to make you better people. Every day you will have the chance to protect the weak and the vulnerable. You're going to be able to fight crime and foster hope. And every day you'll be called upon to be courageous, and you must. If for some reason your purpose and why you're taking this job today becomes blurred, just look down on your shoulder. Look at that patch. On that patch, it's the same patch that I wore when I started. This patch reminds us that knowledge, courage, integrity, compassionate professionalism. It says professionalism. We demand compassionate professionalism from each and every one of you. These are the core values that make you great. This is what makes us who we are. There's going to be times when you deal with situations that seem like they're unbearable. You must be steadfast. How you react and how you adjust, this is what defines your character. This is what makes you who you are. It's not what you're going to see and what you do. It's how you adapt. It's how you overcome and how you react. You know, you'll think these images, these things are done. You'll see something, you'll do something, and you'll try to get on with your job. But I'm going to warn you, things will linger. Images, smells, sounds, they're going to continue in your life. They're not going to go anywhere. Don't be a stranger to counseling, and don't be a stranger to support of your peers. You're going to find that the support from the individuals around you who wear that badge will be food and comfort for your soul. And you know that because this last 20 weeks, you've now become a team, haven't you? You now support each other. You started out with 31 individuals. You're down to 23, and you're much stronger as a result. I know all of you have had a difficult 20 weeks up here. I know it's been hard. We just saw it on video. You've suffered. And I'm not going to apologize for that. None of these professionals up here wearing a gun and badge, we're not going to apologize for what you went through, because we know what you're about to go through on the street. It was done to prepare you for a career in law enforcement. Remember, I'm asking you now to go out into the communities and enforce law. But enforcing the law is just part of what we're going to be doing. The rest of the job is to be a good family member, be a good friend, be a good neighbor to the community you serve. And please remember that good people make great police officers, not the other way around. May God bless each one of you and your families for what you're doing and for becoming our family in law enforcement in this community. welcome to your new career in law enforcement, and welcome to your new family. Congratulations, and I mean that. We're all part of the same team now. It's now my honor, my privilege to introduce my boss and our city mayor, the Honorable Tommy Battle.
Thank you, Chief, and if I could take a point of privilege here to address the cadets. Thank you for your service. You are going out to join the finest police force ever, and you will be doing the duty of serve and protect. To your families, I want to tell you, we support you. We support the families, we support these young police officers. We got your back, and we will always support you through everything that happens in this community. Thank you for your service. I have the honor today of introducing our guest speaker. Our guest speaker is Steve Marshall, who is the Attorney General for the state of Alabama. About 2 years ago, I had some friends come up to me and they started talking about this young, and Steve, young is kind of a relative term to me, about this young district attorney who was over in Marshall County. And he was a fighter. He was a man of integrity. He was an honest man, and he was basically a good man. And they wanted to see him run for Attorney General, and they were pushing him to run for Attorney General. A couple of months later, or maybe a year later, I happened to run into Steve in Montgomery, and he's going up for an interview with the governor. The governor's about to pick an Attorney General. And I told him good luck. And as we went back to the table, I was telling the people at the table, I said, we couldn't do better than this man as Attorney General. Very quickly, I think a day later, we heard the news that he had been appointed Attorney General. And he's a man of integrity. He's a good man. He's an honest man. And he's a man who believes in the law. And the law is written, not as he would want to interpret it. He is a great leader for the state of Alabama, and we want to say thank you for coming and being part of our graduation. I want to introduce Steve Marshall. Steve.
It is a privilege and a pleasure for me to be able to be here to celebrate those that are on the first two rows for the steps that you're about to take to become law enforcement professionals. And I can think of no higher calling. And it truly is an honor for me to be able to be a part of what is a wonderful event. I will tell you that yesterday I had the privilege of going to Children's Hospital and sitting with a young 10-year-old boy who is dying from cancer. One of my inspirations, and I won't go into that story today, but was with him about an hour. And you're in that room with him, and he had lots of toys and things that people had given him, and we brought him a couple of things. And throughout that entire hour, he was holding something in his hand. And as we were talking, he continued to rub it and look at it. And about the end of the time that we had together, he looked at me and he said, "Mr. Steve, I want to be a police officer when I grow up." This young boy with a feeding tube in his stomach, with just toxic medicine coming into his body, throughout that time we were together was holding a badge. And he didn't say he wanted to be a football player. He didn't say he wanted to be a movie star. He definitely didn't say he wanted to be Attorney General. He said he wanted to be a police officer, which showed me that a little boy who didn't necessarily know how long he was going to live thought that the greatest thing that he could do in his life would be to eventually walk across the stage that you're about to walk across now. And so what I want on his behalf in some ways today is to share with the 23 of you what I think you're about to enter into, and why the decision that you made to go through these difficult weeks to receive that badge will be the best decision that you made in your life. Now, you didn't get here on your own, and there are people who began this path before you, and they're not going to appreciate me doing this, but I want to ask, I know Captain earlier recognized him, but if you are here as a current law enforcement officer, a retired law enforcement officer, or a prosecutor, I want you to stand and remain standing for a second. Gentlemen, that's you two. Thank you for clapping for me. I want you to look and see the people that are here, because they tread the path that you're now going to walk. They created an expectation in this community of excellence and of integrity. And their expectation for you is not only to be able to share the profession that they have, but to be able to share their calling. Because I will tell you that the men and women that are standing here are my heroes. They don't understand the word retreat. They walk toward danger, and they deal with the problems of society that nobody else wants to handle. You now walk in their footsteps, and because of them, you now have the privilege of serving as a law enforcement professional. Thank you all for standing. And I'm going to ask one other group to stand for me as well. If you're a family member of one of these cadets, would you please stand and remain standing? All right. I want you to see the people that are now standing because they have given you to us. One thing that I want you to know is that in my office, in the Attorney General's office, there are two windows, one of which looks at the Capitol that reminds me of the role that I play in state government. But the other looks upon a monument to fallen officers, where in this state we recognize those who have given the greatest act of courage and heroism to make their community safe. And the one thing that your family members know is that by giving you to us, you're a little bit different in that when you go to work, they're not guaranteed you're coming home. And so every day they're going to be worried about you. You know, the chief has talked about their support of you, but you also need to recognize the sacrifice they've made by giving you to us. And those family members that are here, please understand, and I think you've heard it directly from the boss when the mayor talked about earlier, they support the men and women that are in this department. They understand the sacrifice that you make, but it's my opportunity on behalf of the people of the state of Alabama to say thank you for giving them to us and for the role that they will play in keeping communities safe. Thank you very much. Because what I want to share with you is the things that I've learned, what this gray hair has come from, and the role that I had the privilege to play as a prosecutor and now as your Attorney General, because I think I understand what it is that you're about to walk into, and that I share the same principles that you hold dear in trying to make sure that not only have you understood that this is your job, but that now it is your profession. Because everybody that's on this stage wants you to be successful. They want you to have careers like they've had, to understand what it means to have the ability to retire from this profession and being able to hold your head high, because that's what we want from you. To be able to do that, I think there's some things that you got to realize coming in. The first of which is kind of made by a statement that Mark Twain said. He said, the two most important days of your life are the day you were born and the day you figure out why. Ladies and gentlemen of this class, I hope that you figured out your why. And that your why is a passion for justice. Because the chief talked about it earlier, you're going to see some tough things. You're going to run into obstacles. And unless you realize that this is your calling, that this is what you were made to do, it's going to be difficult to deal with those. You know, I vividly remember going to a hospital in Marshall County and meeting a young man named Uriel Hernandez. Uriel was a year and a day old when I saw him. And when I saw him, he was dead. His mother and her boyfriend had brought him to a hospital, said he had fallen off a bed. He fell off the bed and hit his head and he was having trouble breathing. I had a good investigator that went out to that house, and Uriel's bed was 6 inches off the ground because it was a mattress laying on the carpeted floor. We did an autopsy on Uriel, and he had countless bruises on his face and his body, 2 fractured ribs, human bite marks, a burn on his back, and he died from blunt force trauma to his head. Uriel was a victim from a mother and a boyfriend who decided to take his life. And I can tell you, and I'm not ashamed of it, I cried when I saw him because I understood that a loss of life for a young innocent child would never be able to continue. It's a difficult thing to see. But yet, strangely enough, I walked out of that hospital not just sad because of the fact that Uriel lost his life, but energized by the fact that as a law enforcement professional, I had the opportunity to find justice for him. That I got to hold the people who did that to him accountable and make sure that they wouldn't hurt anybody else again. And understanding that we were dealing with that situation, one of the difficult things in life with the loss of life, because of the responsibility that we have as law enforcement professionals to communities, we're given the privilege to make sure that we stand up for those who need our voice and need our help. And unless you realize that this is your passion and this is your calling, you're not going to be able to handle those situations well. But this is what you're called to do. You'll understand that this is the role that society has for you, is to be able to make a difference in the lives of young people like Uriel. But if it's your calling and your passion, we also got to recognize that you don't walk across this stage fully equipped for all the things that you'll deal with in your life. That although we've begun your training always continues. And whether or not you believe it or not, Loretta Lynn was a great philosopher. Some of the people are old enough in this room to know who Loretta Lynn is. But she once said that you don't want to be like last night's cornbread, stale and dry. You always got to grow. Which means that not only do you have to have a passion for what it is that you're called to do, you got to believe that every day you want to get better at what you're asked to do for this community. To be able to learn the latest skills. To be able to be aware of how your training matters. And that when this community and this department says we want to invest in you with the latest technology and with the latest training, that you need to be able to embrace that. Because law enforcement 20 years ago isn't what law enforcement is today. And unless you realize that as a professional you always want to get better, then you're never going to have the opportunity to reach your full potential. You've got to realize that you're not allowed to have off days. You get days off, but when you come to work, you're not allowed to have off days. Because it's that person to your right or that person to your left or the current law enforcement officers that you just saw stand up that are going to need your help in times when you may not be aware of it. And so to be an effective member of this profession, every day you got to come ready to give it your all. And I think that's the expectation for the people on this stage when they allow you to graduate today, is that you're all in and that what you do matters to you, because I can guarantee you that it matters to this community. One of the things that you also have to realize is that you've been given the privilege to set the standard for your community, not only in your professional life, but also in your personal life. And this was a lesson that I learned from a young woman I met by the name of Tanya Minson. I saw Tanya in that same hospital room that I told you about with Uriel, and she had also passed away. Now, Tanya was different than an innocent year-old baby. Tanya was a drug dealer. And Tanya came from a part of Marshall County that didn't always trust law enforcement. The story of Tanya's death was that she was providing a 20 rock to a guy named Bobby Jones who just didn't have enough partying, I guess, the night before. He picked up Tanya. They went around looking for crack cocaine in this community. She ends up providing what he thought was a 20 rock, and instead turned out to be vitamin B12. It was fake, and he didn't like it. And rather than drive away, he put his car in reverse while Tanya was still on the driver's side door, ran her into a telephone pole, and then he drove away and he killed her. And when I showed up, it was very different than Uriel, because I knew I didn't have a woman that was singing in the church choir. She wasn't somebody that was respected by her community. Instead, she was somebody that many would say that society was better off because she was dead. But that community was watching. They wanted to know whether or not we were going to treat Tanya just like we would have the pillar of the community. Well, we're willing to stand up and say that the rule of law applies as equally to her as it does to somebody else. That if we're going to say that life matters, did Tanya's life matter? Tanya's mom spoke to me. This was about 3 months after her death. And she told me that she understood that Tanya had made mistakes in her life, that she wasn't the mother that she needed to be, that she had made some bad choices, but that Bobby Jones took away Tanya's right to change. In that community, who wondered whether or not law enforcement cared, who wondered whether or not they were just simply there to cause trouble and not to protect and serve, they were watching us. Well, we're going to treat Tanya's case just like we would any other. And we tried it. And Bobby Jones was convicted. He got 108 years in prison. Now, guys, I don't know why 108, but it was 108. And it changed the community. Because through that case and through the work of law enforcement, we set the standard that the rule of law applies to all. And that we were going to stand up for Tanya just like we would anybody else. And as a result of that, we changed the community for the better. You're going to have a chance to do that same thing. By going out every day, doing your job, you'll set the standard for what we expect of people in Huntsville. Because I can guarantee you that people are going to watch you to see whether or not that holds true. And not just in your professional life, but it's going to be in how you treat that cashier at Walmart. It's going to be on how you respond to an umpire's bad call at your kid's Little League game. It's going to be how it is that you treat others when you're not in uniform. Because I will tell you this, you don't have the privilege of being a police officer on duty and not a police officer off. You're always a police officer, which means that you're always going to be held to a higher standard than other people in our community. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you embrace it. Because we create change as much off duty as we do on. And understand that you're always going to be watched because you're simply a cell phone video away from being a news story. And I want you to be the good story and not somebody that's criticized to say that we'll do one thing and hold ourselves out in a different way. The other thing that we're given the privilege of doing is every day to do the right thing, the right way, for the right reason. And we do it regardless of the consequences. And I can guarantee that if you make that commitment, you're going to be able to go home after your shift every day and lay your head down and sleep well. Because not many professions get the privilege of doing the right thing every day. But when you walk across this stage today, that's going to be your honor. But it's not always going to be easy. I will tell you that I met a young man that did what you're going to do in my community. Worked in the jail, went to the academy, became the leader on his shift. Was somebody that made really good cases because I handled some of his as a municipal prosecutor. Somebody that was respected by his peers and people in the community thought he was a good officer. And then I met 4 women that told a very different story. They were again not the members of the church choir. They were a stripper, a thief, a drug addict, and a woman that simply liked body piercings. The stripper told the story of that officer that she was driving out of her apartment to go to a GED class because she was trying to change her life. She didn't have a driver's license. And that officer pulled her over immediately, pulled her back into the parking lot, and asked her to be able to go into her apartment and talk to her. Said, I'm going to write you a ticket because I know you don't have a license. I know what you do, and I know who you are. But if you'll do something for me, I'll make sure that that ticket doesn't happen. The woman that was a drug addict was driving intoxicated. Saw the video. She clearly was not able to drive safely on the roads of Marshall County. But instead of doing what you've learned about engaging in field sobriety, being able to make a decision and determine whether or not there's probable cause that somebody can safely operate a motor vehicle or whether they're under the influence of some intoxicating substance, he put her in the front seat of his patrol car, didn't put her in handcuffs, went and grabbed her keys and told her, I'm going to drive you home. I'll get your car there. I'm not going to arrest you today. But because I'm doing something for you, I want you to do something for me. The woman was the thief. He was serving a warrant, picked her up, was driving her to the jail to book her in, and he told her, I've got your cell number. I'm going to call you, and I'm going to try to help you with your case because the prosecutor typically puts people in jail for what you've done with your record. Ends up calling her a couple times afterwards to say, I'm going to be in court with you when you show up. I'm going to go to the prosecutor. I'm going to try to help you with your case. She shows up for court, and she sees him there talking to the prosecutor. They're able to resolve that case short of her going to jail. He ends up calling her a few days later and said, I did what I told you I was going to do for you. Now you need to do something for me. And finally, the young lady that liked body piercing was driving too fast. He writes her a ticket, but he says, I want you to pull up to this dark parking lot ahead. I want to talk to you again. She ends up pulling over. He pulls side by side and says, I know I gave you that ticket, but I can make it go away. For me to do that, you've got to do something for me. 4 women who didn't know each other, who told a very different story about a respected law enforcement officer. A story that I believed. I wasn't but a couple years as the DA of Marshall County at the time, and I will tell you this, charging law enforcement officers isn't something I took lightly. I clearly knew that there would be people, not only in my community, but in law enforcement, that would question the judgment that I made in charging him with ethics violations. But I knew it was the right thing to do because he had violated the law and he wasn't any different than anybody else. It was the hardest case of my life. The stripper, for whatever it's worth, I told her to dress like she was going to church, and she did, with a plunging neckline dress with a flaming arrow tattoo that everybody could see. The officer's wife was 8 months pregnant. She was sitting on the front row. And those 4 women told their story. But what was interesting, before we were able to finish that trial, I got a call from an officer that had been served with a subpoena to show up for the defense. And he wasn't happy about it. And for whatever reason, that subpoena refreshed his memory about the stories that he recalled about this officer. He ended up sharing a story with me about another woman that he recalled was drunk and driving, was arrested for DUI, but yet she didn't get charged with that. And she was let immediately out of jail when she got to the police station. Ended up finding her at a local penitentiary. She had been charged and convicted of manufacturing methamphetamine and was serving a prison sentence. And an FBI agent and I walked into the room with that woman. She didn't know we were coming. It was early on a Sunday morning. And the first thing she did was, once we introduced ourselves, is ask me whether or not we were here about that police officer. And she ended up telling us the story about how she was drunk, about how he arrested her. And as he got her to the station, he said, "I won't charge you with this. I'll make sure that you can get out of jail tonight." But then he walked her back to the chief's office, turned out the lights, and said, "You got to do something for me." Now, of all the stories I've told you, she's the only one that did what he asked. But it reaffirmed again the reason why the decision we made to charge him was the right thing to do. And I gave what I think was probably the most passionate closing argument of my life, and that jury found him guilty. I don't necessarily take pride in that, because it was a black eye on law enforcement. But y'all, he was the exception. He wasn't the rule. But what we were able to do is stand up for the proposition that as a professional, we were willing to do the right thing for the right reason, the right way, regardless of the consequences of that decision. You now have the privilege of being able to do the same thing. It's an amazing career, and I'm excited about the opportunities you've been given. And Mayor Battle's going to support you, but y'all, he's not going to make you a millionaire. You're not going to make a lot of money doing this. But let me tell you what you're going to get the privilege of being able to do, and that is to have a legacy. There are a lot of career paths that you could have chosen, but very few that give you the opportunity to have a legacy. And part of that is the men and women that are in this room that love you. The pride that they're going to have by what you're going to do with your life in this profession. But it's also going to be the people that you come into contact with that you may not realize it at the time, that you will forever change their lives. For me, it was a little 11-year-old girl. The first time when she came into my office was after there was a charge against her step-grandfather for sexual abuse. You see, she loved her grandmother, and that sometimes she'd be left alone with that step-grandfather, and he would do things that never, ever should happen to a little girl or anybody else. But she didn't tell because she wanted to still see her grandmother, and he said you wouldn't let her come over if she did. He said, if you tell, she won't believe you, she'll believe me, and that's exactly what happened. And when I saw her, she could barely look me in the eye. She could barely tell me her name. And it was clear that she was in a very bad place. A year and a half later, I had asked that then 12-and-a-half-year-old little girl to stand up in front of a group of strangers that we call a jury and talk about the most embarrassing moments of her life that occurred in a back bedroom with that defendant. She told her story. She was called a liar on cross-examination. That defendant got up, was a retired military veteran, had a distinguished career, told why this little girl was such an awful human being. But yet a jury found him guilty. And that little girl who couldn't look me in the eye when I first saw her, she and I went into a back room alone together. And really for the first time I saw her smile. And she looked me in the eye and she said, "Thank you." And I told her, you don't need to thank me. It's my job to make sure that we convicted him. And she said, no, I want to thank you for believing in me. And she gave me a hug, and she smiled, and she walked out of that room. And I cried like I did when I saw Uriel. And one of the things that I realized is because of the opportunity that I was given to work in the criminal justice system, that we had the ability to forever change the life of that little 12-year-old girl who had nobody else that believed in her but those of us who worked on her case. And because we held that offender accountable, because we believed in her and supported her, her life was forever changed. Ladies and gentlemen, you're now given that same chance. It's going to be that random stranger. It's going to be that person that you don't know, that because of something that you do, by standing up for them, you're now going to forever change their lives. And that will be a legacy not defined by money, not defined by fame, but instead you will become a catalyst for change for people who, because of you, will have a better life. I am grateful that you're sitting in those chairs today. And it reminds me of the absolute opportunity and privilege I've been given as Attorney General to be the Chief Law Enforcement Officer in this state. I share that with you only because I am grateful for your service. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to step up when many wouldn't, to do the right thing and to serve the people of this community. I will pray for you like I do with other officers every day in my office. And I look forward to hearing the stories of your successes in the future. God bless you all.
Good morning. And welcome to all in attendance to the graduation ceremony of Huntsville Police Academy's 56th session. I am Cadet Tanius Scott, class president of the brothers and sisters seated in front. The evolution of training to become a police officer was an intense feat full of mental, physical, and emotional levels. Did I mention physical? But there is a method to the madness. 3 weeks before day one of our academy, we sat nervously in the classroom of the Sparkman Academy. Thoughts of what lay ahead filled our minds. We talked amongst each other during breaks from human resources paperwork. I'm sure we've all done that before. It takes a while, huh? We would periodically see our training advisors in the hallway. We would render the proper greeting of the day and carry on, not knowing what the real definition of calm before the storm was about. The controlled, chaotic environment we endured brought us closer together. It forced us to work as a team and not as individuals. It forced us to communicate and to learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. Each cadet quickly learned that one team, one mind, one fight would have to be more than a motto, but how we operated as a whole. If we ever forgot that, our training advisors knew good exercise to remind us. The past 18 weeks have been a journey none of us will ever forget. But this moment, though sweet, is only the beginning. The true test is putting the training to use. The true test is becoming proficient, which in time we will all achieve. Our reasons are for you, the community. Does the idea of car pursuits and fights get our blood going? Absolutely. But the main objective is protecting and serving you. The other variables we are happy to take care of as they arise. To our friends and family, please, no more, if you pull me over, don't write me a ticket. But seriously, where would we be without you? A boat, no matter its size, can still be moved out to sea if there's no anchor. With the negativity that is piling up in regards to law enforcement, your love and support is needed more now than ever as we begin our careers. And when we work holidays, set us a plate to the side, wrap it in aluminum foil, we'll be by to pick it up. I would like to thank the Academy staff, Deputy Chief Harris, Captain McCarver, Lieutenant Tribble, Sergeant Weiner, Officer DeBoer, Officer Hendricks, who's not in attendance, Officer George, Officer Moore, and Ms. Carly McDaniel. The 56th session appreciates and thanks you for the professionalism and dedication you've given us throughout the Academy. To our training advisors, you pushed us to our limits and then further. We learned the only limit that comes from a mind that has not been broken down, the barriers that conceal success. It's amazing what you can learn by carrying a truck tire around the track a few times. Lastly, I want to thank those that came before us and paid the ultimate sacrifice. The body dies, but tales of good deeds and heroism and courage can build a lasting legacy. Thank you.
It's an established tradition of the Huntsville Police Academy that each Academy session designs a flag which represents their particular class. The class motto for the 56th session is one team, one mind, one fight. At this time, Cadet Scott and Cadet Riggins will present the flag to Chief McMurray.
Law Enforcement Code of Ethics. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve the community, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional rights of all to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all, and will behave in a manner which does not bring discredit to me or my agency. I will maintain courageous calm in the face of danger, scorn, or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others. Honest in thought and deed, in both my personal and official life, I will be exemplary in obeying the laws and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature, or that is confided to me in my official capacity, will be kept ever secret unless revelations is necessary in the performance of my duty. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, political beliefs, aspirations, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. With no compromise for crime and with relentless prosecution of criminals, I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately, without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratuities. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of the police service. I will never engage in acts of bribery, nor will I condone such acts by other police officers. I will cooperate with all legally authorized agencies and their representatives in the pursuit of justice. I know that I alone am responsible for my own standard of professional performance and will take every opportunity to enhance and improve my level of knowledge and competence. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession, law enforcement.
This Academy staff has demanded a lot from each of these cadets these past 18 weeks. We challenged them both mentally and physically, and each of them met those challenges. However, there were a few cadets who excelled above their peers in certain areas. With each Academy graduation, a few cadets are given special recognition and presented with an award apart from their peers for outstanding performance and accomplishments in 5 specific categories. These categories are academics, firearms, physical fitness, overall outstanding performance, and esprit de corps. I have asked the Academy staff to assist me in presenting these awards today. To present the Gary E. Stapler Award, I call upon Officer Chad George.
Officer Gary E. Stapler graduated from the 21st Academy session as class valedictorian and outstanding all-around cadet. His career and life were prematurely ended when he died of muscular disease called ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. In honoring his memory and his accomplishments, our police department renamed the academic award and presents it to the graduating cadet who has the highest academic score. This academic score is calculated by averaging the major reinforcement exams along with multiple miscellaneous tests that are given throughout the academy. With an academic score of 94.5, the 56 Sessions Gary E. Stapler Award is presented to Cadet Ethan King.
Cadets spend an entire week on the firing range, learning and demonstrating the basic fundamentals for pistol and shotgun. Towards the end of the week, after fatigue is set in, they shoot the HPD Top Gun course to determine the top marksman in the class. They shot over 24,000 rounds of ammunition prior to the Top Gun course. Out of a possible score of 500, the recipient of this award scored a 480. Top Gun and Firearms Award for the 56th session is presented to Cadet King.
Officer Aaron Barley graduated from the 31st Academy session and was a recipient of the Physical Fitness Award for that session. Like Officer Stapler, his life and career were prematurely ended by an unknown heart condition. In honoring his memory and accomplishments, our department renamed the Physical Fitness Award and presents it to the graduating cadet who has the highest average of the physical fitness test given. With an overall score of 98 of a possible 100 and winning 4 out of the 8 events, the 56th Session Aaron Barley Physical Fitness Award is presented to Cadet John Manning.
Officer Daniel H. Golden graduated from the 44th Academy session. His enthusiasm for the profession of law enforcement carried on from the academy to the streets, where he was loved by all. Like the previous officers mentioned, Officer Golden's life and career were prematurely ended when he was murdered answering a domestic violence call. In honoring his memory, our department renamed the Esprit de Corps Award and presents it to the cadet who, in the opinion of the academy staff and fellow cadets, demonstrated a positive attitude and was a motivational force for the entire class. The 56 Sessions Daniel Kelso Golden Esprit de Corps Award is presented to Cadet Oakfield.
The Chief's Challenge Award is presented to the cadet who has distinguished him or herself by earning the highest overall grade. This is a composite grade based on their academic test scores, firearm scores, physical fitness score. It is my honor to present this award to Cadet King. At this time, I ask the cadets of the 56th session of the Huntsville Police Academy to rise and present yourselves for graduation.
Flag! Attention! Right, feet! Forward, march!
Brian Burgess. Chadwick Campbell. Ashley Chrisman. Zachary Dean. Fernando Fernandez. Terry Hastings. Courtney Hurt. Ethan King. John Manning. Stephen Mason. Curtis Mitchell. Brandon Ofield. Nicole Ocasio. Christopher Olson. Randall Clemens. Sean Reeves. Zefen Riggins. Tanius Scott. Crystal Veneria. Kendall Wagahoff. David Wallace. Latoya Wells. Justin Wilson. The cadets will now be sworn in by Mayor Tommy Battle.
And I'd like to ask that our Chief Law Enforcement Officer for the state of Alabama stand with us as we do the swearing in. Please raise your right hand. I state your name. Solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Alabama, so long as I continue a citizen thereof, and that I will faithfully and honestly discharge the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter. To the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations.
Forward march! About three!
Let's bow, please. Thou, O Lord, are a shield about us. Father, these young men and women have received a shield, but it does not protect them. It makes them a target, and they have become a shield between us and evil and injustice. Father, we ask that you be their shield. Guard their hearts. Guard the peace of mind of their loved ones. Guard them from fear. Protect them from danger. Father, embrace us as a Huntsville police family and keep us together as a community and be the shield that protects them while they protect us. We thank you for their accomplishment. We thank you for this occasion. Dismiss us in your care. In Jesus' name, amen.
I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. To the 56th session, you have officially eaten that elephant. This concludes our ceremony.